All right, let's talk some Aidan Hutchinson, because he had 3 sacks today, and I'm just going to be honest right off the bat, it wasn't the most impressive 3-sack day you will ever see. In fact, it was very much, one of the least impressive 3-sack days you will see, in my opinion, but 3 sacks is still 3 sacks. Listen, if you've been following this channel, you know I'm a big believer in sacks don't tell the whole story. There's always a lot of flukiness there. But I also think that he did play well. Like, I actually thought that his run defense was the highlight of this game, so I'm going to talk about that. But first, let's talk about these sacks, what happened, why they were able to, why he was able to get there. And still, there were some positives. He tackled the quarterback. Of course, there's still going to be some positives there. But, let's start off with this play. So, what you're going to see is that's where he is on the screen. I'm very fascinated in that Detroit is using him a lot more, sort of like on this play, he's a 3-4 defensive end. So, they're not just using him as a pure edge rusher, which is a bit surprising to me. I would have used him as a pure edge rusher. Again, I loved Aidan Hutchinson out of draft. He was my #1 player out of this draft. But as you see, he's essentially running into a double team due to the concept. So again, gets beat at the line, but of course he's going to get beat at the line. Like, that's obviously going to happen. He got double teamed. Like, you expect someone to get beat at the line in that scenario. I don't really hold that against him too much. You're not going to see him do a good job of hustling, but also, Wentz is trying to run through a wall. Hutchinson is eventually the one who brings him down, but certainly this is very different than just beating a tackle cleanly at the line and getting a sack that way. The reality is a lot of sacks happen this way. Everyone views sacks as like it's only one, an edge rusher beats a tackle at the line immediately. That does happen, but it doesn't happen as often as people think it does, I think. Like, this one's another interesting one, I think. This time he is going to be as a pure edge rusher going up against the right tackle. And I would still say this is a pretty good move. Like, watch. He's going to try this rip move. It doesn't quite work. He does get pushed behind the quarterback. So these are the kind of moves that I expect he will start to hit on at certain points, but didn't start to hit on it here. He got pushed behind the quarterback, but one thing that you do have to say is, while this isn't an ideal situation for Hutchinson, you would have liked to just run straight into the quarterback, these things are not necessarily the worst situation either, because the quarterback now has no idea where you are. He's not going to be looking behind himself when he's trying to throw the football. So because of this, if Carson Wentz tries to do something, you can generate a sack. So this is one of those, did he beat a tackle cleanly to get to the quarterback? No. But did he still put himself in position to where something good can happen? Yes. Wentz does kind of just run straight into Hutchinson, which was fortunate for Hutchinson. But again, you're putting yourself in the right position and good things do happen. So while I still want to see him kind of beat a tackle more consistently, that's just my personal preference there. It's a sack. Why am I nitpicking it so much, right? It's still a good play. And actually, this play is, I think, a great one. People will kind of scoff at this one. I saw some people saying, oh, his 2 sacks were, 2 kind of fluky sacks and then a stunt. So to explain what a stunt is real quick, you have a defensive tackle who's going to run to the center's left. The center is going to follow him there. So because of that, you then have a situation where the center will be blocking to his left. The right guard is going to be blocking to his right. And so for Hutchinson, if he can kind of run in between them, he could get unblocked to the quarterback. And a lot of people are kind of saying, well, this, again, you're not beating a tackle cleanly with this type of play, which is true. I do acknowledge that. But there's still a lot of skill in getting sacks on these types of plays. And there's definitely guys who are great at this stuff and guys who aren't great at this stuff. I think about a guy like Shaq Barrett. I can't think about how many times he's gotten a sack because Vita Vea took away like 3 guys and he was able to get through. That's still a skill that some guys possess and some guys do not. And Hutchinson, I mean, he has the physical talent, which that's another thing. He is definitely a great athlete to be able to do this stuff. Like, watch how it's going to develop perfectly. So that worked. Again, there's an element of flukiness to this, of course. There's always an element of flukiness to pass rushers. A pass rusher can rarely do something all by themselves. Every now and then they can, but typically you need something to happen. You need the first read to not be open. You need someone else to generate a pressure that gets the quarterback towards you. You need the quarterback to not see you, all of that stuff. But watch how Hutchinson has the athleticism to get over and still make this tackle. He got there very quickly. So, again, yes, you would have liked to see him get 3 sacks by beating a tackle cleanly all 3 times with incredible moves and make them look silly every time. Sure, but 3 sacks is 3 sacks at the end of the day. And if you are generating production, one of the things I do believe in is if you generate production, that typically means you're going to continue to generate production. 3 sacks is 3 sacks. But like I said, I thought his run defense was actually the better aspect of his game in this one. I thought he had some really good run defense plays, and you're going to see him really kind of dominate a couple of guys. Like when teams tried to put a tight end on him, it just did not go well, which is, again, when you're running the ball, you don't want to have to worry about the edge rusher when you're running the ball up the middle. Especially when you're running the ball to your offense's right, you don't have to worry about the edge rusher to the left. That's just not something you want to have to deal with. However, Hutchinson really just dominates this matchup and is able to get over and help make that tackle. So, those are the kind of things that he can do, is he can benefit your team in ways that you don't expect him to do it. And I've always been a believer in, everyone talks about pass rush with edge rushers. The run defense game is just as important. And Hutchinson is someone who has been, he was a better run defender in college than Trayvon Walker. That's one of the things that I talked about. There still are, again, in honor of fairness, there still are some things he has to clean up in the run defense game, just like there are things he has to clean up in the pass rush game. He has to try and, I think get a little bit more consistent at that kind of stuff. But he's getting the wins now, and you hope that, he gets the wins now, and then eventually can sort of, finish the rest. Like, watch, this one's going to be another one where you're going to see a tight end who's going to go one-on-one against Hutchinson right here. I mean, just watch this. Look, he barely touches Hutchinson. Hutchinson gets over, and he is going to not entirely make that tackle. So you would like to see him make the tackle a little better. That's, I think, reasonable. He still does get credit for the tackle here, but probably doesn't make the tackle if there wasn't help there. And I can't even tell if he's slamming his fist on the ground in excitement or in terms of mad at himself for missing the tackle. Also, bit of a side note, guys gotta stop slamming their hands on the ground. Someone's gonna break their wrist doing that sometimes. Stop doing that. I get you're upset. You'll be okay. But on a much more football related note, again, for someone like Hutchinson, these are the kind of things that you drafted him for. These are the kind of things that you're excited about. So I want to make a video kind of explaining my thoughts on Hutchinson as a whole and talking about, how I thought he played. Because again, people will look at the stats and that's all they care about. He was not as good as his stats were. He was not. That doesn't mean that I'm being a Hutchinson hater. Again, I am a huge Hutchinson fan. Everyone knows that I am a big Hutchinson fan. I'm actually interested in hearing if the audience is going to think that I was a hater in this or, an apologist in this. I don't know, because you could argue both, I think. But, I think you could argue both about Hutchinson. I think there's things he has to improve upon. And I think that he got 3 sacks in his second ever NFL game. That's also something that should be celebrated. So I get both sides. I am fascinated in seeing where he goes from here. But that's where I feel like he is currently as of today. So those are kind of my thoughts on Aidan Hutchinson as a whole. Again, plenty to like with Aidan Hutchinson. But what did you guys think? What were your thoughts on Hutchinson? Do you agree with me that the sacks are maybe misleading, but he's still showing promise and is only going to continue to get better? Or are you someone who says, no, he got 3 sacks, he's already awesome? Or are you on the other side saying, the 3 sacks were kind of fluky? I want to see more consistency before I'm willing to crown him. He was drafted 2nd overall. He was supposed to be drafted 1st overall. I want to see him be an immediate asset to the Lions, which also just doesn't happen. Edge rushers take time. Defensive linemen take time. It's going to take all these guys like a year anyways, but, maybe not a year, but it's going to take you some time to really get into the thick of things. But, I'm interested in hearing what you guys had to say. Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And, of course, as always, thanks for watching.